Dr. Parmjit Parmar.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chair, to contribute in the Committee of the Whole House on Parental Leave and Employment Protection, 6 months paid leave and work contact hours amendment bill. Mr. Chair, I am not on this select committee, but I have contributed on this bill on previous readings, so it's really good to have this opportunity. Mr. Chair, speaking on part one, as we know, the part one is about affordability and also extending paid parental leave to 22 weeks. Mr. Chair, as I said, I'm not on the select committee, so I didn't hear the member before on this bill, why she proposes that paid parental leave should be extended in 2 stages. So that was one of my questions I wanted to ask the member, why she decided to propose that we should extend paid parental leave in 2 stages. That first stage is extending it only to 22 weeks. Mr. Chair, there is resemblance to what we did. We increased paid parental leave in 2 stages. We increased it from 14 to 18 weeks over 2 years. And the reason was affordability. We wanted to make sure that it is affordable, what we are doing. And Mr. Chair, we also made sure that we are not just increasing the length of the paid parental leave, but we included other workers, we included other care arrangements, along with extending the length of the paid parental leave. So, Mr. Chair, looking at...
I am going to interrupt this member as I interrupted the previous speaker twice. This is a debate on this bill and not on previous bills. So members going over what happened previously may be relevant, might have been relevant at the second reading, might be relevant at the third, but it's not at this committee stage.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, talking about affordability, that was my question to the member, that why the member decided to propose this extension in 2 stages, that is going to just 22 weeks in first stage. And Mr. Chair, if it is about affordability, I want to ask the member, the cost of this is going to be close to $500 million. Where will the member get that $500 million? Where should we cut that expenditure or the investment that we are doing currently to invest to increase paid parental leave to 22 weeks? Mr. Chair, we know that the intention is good behind this bill, but it's about affordability, it's about timing. We know that in 2007, Families Commission recommended to increase paid parental leave to 13 months, and then the Labour government decided not to because they knew it's not affordable. So, Mr. Chair, my question still to the member is how are we going to afford to increase paid parental leave so quickly when we have increased paid parental leave to 18 weeks already from this year? Mr. Chair, it's a long-term view. It's not a short-term view. It's not something we can start this year, do it for a couple of years, and then we decide it's not going to work. We need to work out, see what will be the cost of this policy when we implement it in a long term. Mr. Chair, it's important that the taxpayers understand why we are doing it. We are answerable to taxpayers, and I would like to know from the member how she's going to explain it to taxpayers that this is a good measure to increase paid parental leave so quickly when we have already increased it to 18 weeks, increased it to 22 weeks. Mr. Chair, I do understand the reason is bonding. I also see that I do understand, Mr. Speaker, that this is about bonding. And yes, bonding is important, but that doesn't mean that if parents go back to work after 18 weeks or 22 weeks or 26 weeks, then there is no bonding or any opportunities for bonding with their children. Mr. Chair, I want to also know that why the member decided to increase it only to 22 or 26 weeks. Why not go longer? Because there are other proposals in different countries. They are wanting to see that paid parental leave should be longer. It's not that we should be comparing our paid parental leave with other countries, because if other countries are doing something, that is not a statement to us that we should follow. We have our own things to look after. We have to see what is affordable in our country. Given, Mr. Speaker, we have just come out from a huge global financial crisis, and we had Canterbury earthquakes, so we need to be very careful how we manage our finances, and we need to see what is affordable. And looking at this timing, Mr. Chair, this is not affordable, and I still ask that question to the member, how she thinks spending close to $500 million on this is just justified? How will she justify it to taxpayers? And going around talking to people, Mr. Chair, people think that as we have already increased it to 18 weeks, we need to see the impact of that before we jump onto the next step. So it's something we need to be very careful about, how we invest our money. Members spoke about cutting spending for charter schools. That is very ironic, Mr. Chair.
Paul Foster-Bell.